Have you been to Korea or the United States? Like the US and Korea speak different languages, their court systems have quite different history and traditions. Picture this. Your friend got in trouble and you're helping him or her in the courtroom. At first you were nervous, but you found all the evidence that would be in favor of your friend. You practice your arguments perfectly and now you feel the confidence. But in the US, you win. And in Korea, you might lose. Today, we're exploring the fascinating clash between US and Korean legal systems, two very different approaches to justice. As students of law and life, I'm Irene. Key difference number 1, judicial systems, common law versus continental law. Let's start with the foundation, judicial systems. In the US, we follow a common law system where past court decisions, or in other words, precedents, carry significant weight. Judges interpret laws and rulings evolve over time. Korea, on the other hand, operates under a civil law system, also known as the continental law system, which relies more heavily on written codes and statutes. Here's an example. Imagine a case about a breach of contract. In the US, lawyers might spend days referencing previous court rulings to build their argument. In Korea, the focus shifts to interpreting the exact wording of the law. The result? US lawyers may emphasize how it was decided before, while Korean lawyers argue what the law says today. This difference creates a massive impact on how justice is delivered. Key difference number 2, adversarial system versus inquisitorial system. Have you ever watched a Hollywood courtroom drama? You know, the intense cross-examinations, lawyers yelling objection, and the dramatic "you can't handle the truth" moments.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Now imagine walking into a Korean courtroom, but instead of heated debates, the judge is calmly leading the case, personally questioning witnesses, and uncovering the facts themselves. Wait, what? The entire assumption about trials is completely different. Today I'm breaking down adversarial system versus inquisitorial system, the US fighting in courts approach versus Korea's judge seeks the truth approach. Let's go. Alright, let's start with the biggest difference. In the US legal system, the court is like a boxing match. Each side, prosecution and defense, brings their best arguments, their strongest evidence, and their top legal strategies to fight it out. So parties are the judge, they're like a referee, just making sure things are fair. But in Korea, the courtroom is more like a detective investigation. The judge actively seeks the truth, questioning witnesses, and even requesting evidence if needed. Lawyers play a supporting role, but the judge is the one driving the case. Here is a visual cut to table comparison. Who runs the case? Judge's role, how truth is found, and trial style. See the difference? But that's just the beginning. Let's talk about who actually gathers the evidence. In the US, lawyers on both sides are responsible for finding evidence before the trial. This is called discovery process, and it's a huge part of American lawsuits. Example, if someone sues a company for fraud, their lawyer has to request company records, emails, and financial statements. The other side can refuse, argue, or even hide information. That's why lawsuits in the US takes a long time. But in Korea, the judge can directly request evidence, they order it. Example, in a murder case, the judge can personally call witnesses or order a forensic report without waiting for lawyers to argue about it. Now let's talk about how the trial actually works. Section 3, the trial, heated debate versus judge-led investigation. The actual trial process also looks quite different in these two legal systems. Let's break it down. In the US, trials are mainly centered on what the party wants, and lawyers actively engage in oral arguments on behalf of their clients. But in Korea, it's less verbal. Most proceedings are followed through by submitting many documents, which the judge meticulously reviews. Visual cut to table comparison. Opening statements, questioning witnesses, who presents evidence, and who decides the verdict. In the US, the case is a competition between lawyers, but in Korea, the judge has the final say after reviewing all the facts. So if you ever step in a courtroom, Understanding these differences could be a game changer. Key difference number 3, jury trials. Imagine you're on trial. The stakes are high. In the US, your fate is in the hands of 12 ordinary people, a jury. But in Korea, it's a judge who holds the power. Why is the US obsessed with jury trials, while Korea trusts judges to make the final decision? And did you know that even courtroom seating arrangements send a completely different message about justice? So let's break down how trial works in the US versus Korea, who decides the verdict, jury versus judge, and how the courtroom layout affects justice. Trust me, this will change how you see law forever. Let's go. US. Juries make the decision. In the US, criminal and civil trials are usually decided by a jury. The jury is made up of regular citizens, not legal professionals. The defendant can waive their rights to a jury, but they must be warned about the consequences. Example, a criminal trial in the US. Imagine a murder trial in New York. The jury listens to all the evidence, then they go into a separate room to deliberate. Once they reach a decision, the verdict is final. Guilty or not guilty. The judge cannot change the ruling. In the US, juries are seen as a way to keep the justice system fair and prevent government overreach. But what about Korea? Let's see how things work here. Korea, judges have the final say. Korea does not rely on juries to make decisions. Judges handle everything. They decide if the defendant is guilty and determine the sentence. Since 2008, Korea introduced 국민 참여 재판, people's participation trials, which allows juries in some cases, but their decision is not binding. Example, a criminal trial in Korea. Imagine that same murder trial, but this time in Seoul. A jury gives their opinion, but the judge can't ignore it if they disagree. In Korea, the judge is seen as the best person to determine the truth. Cut to table comparison jury trials. Who decides the verdict? Is a jury required? Can the judge overrule the jury? Public involvement. US. So here's another surprising difference. The way courtrooms are physically set up. And trust me, it affects how justice is out. The seating affects justice. US, equal level, equal power. The judge, prosecution, and defense sit at nearly the same height. The jury sits separately and observes everything. This setup emphasizes fairness. Both sides are equal opponents in a legal battle. Here are some psychological effects. Defendants feel like they have a fair chance, and the system emphasizes competition between lawyers. But in Korea, judges sit higher than everyone else. The judge sits on an elevated podium while the prosecutors and defense attorneys sit lower. Some say this makes defendants feel like the court already assumes they are guilty, even though the law follows 무죄 추정의 원칙, presumption of innocence. Here are some psychological effects. Defendants may feel intimidated or less powerful. And second, judges are seen as the ultimate authority in truth-seeking. Cut to table comparison, courtroom layouts, height of seats, symbolism, and effect on defendant. So while the US court emphasizes fair competition, the Korean system highlights judges' role as a truth seeker. Now the big question, which system do you think is better? Tell me in the comments. And that was it. If you enjoyed this breakdown of law and culture, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more legal deep dives. See you next time.